Hey everybody, this is the Marine. If you're thinking about getting a hammock for either the first time or upgrading an old one, getting a better hammock, there's some important things that you're going to need to know that will make a huge difference. Now, one thing about the gathered in hammock, there's a little bit of a learning curve to it. A lot of little things that you're going to need to know. But it really is quite simple. And to be honest with you, it's not rocket science. Now in this episode, we're going to look at the different sizes that's going to work best for you in any situations that's going to give you the ultimate hang. Now, one of the most important factors about the gathered in hammock, and probably the least understood, is getting one that fits you. The big misconception is one size fits all, and that is not true. It'd be like someone putting on a pair of pants. You might be able to squeeze in them and say, well, this will do, but you would be a lot more comfortable with a pair that fits you. Now, the same as with the gathered in hammock. You may get into one of those inexpensive ones that you got at a department store, or one that's really popular over the years is the Eno single nest. Now, these hammocks in most cases are way too small for you. You may get one and try to make it work and say, this will do, but you'll be a lot more comfortable with one that fits you. Now, I'm not knocking Eno the company. The single nest was the very first hammock that I used, and I learned a lot from it. But if you're going to use it to go to a park, or you're small in stature, or for a child, it would be just fine. But if you're going to use it to sleep overnight or for hammock camping, you really want to get one that fits you. It's crazy how the Eno single nest has impacted the hammock world. They're new and exciting and innovating when they first came out over 20 years ago. And I'm sure they made so much money being so successful. And the problem is so many small companies are copying that small hammock and mass producing them. And I know people are going to be offended by me saying this and hurting their feelings. But you guys, I'm telling you this is true. And I really want you to be successful, especially when you're hammock camping. So let's start off on what length would work well for you. You never want a hammock under 10 feet, 304 centimeters in length. Now I know some people are going to say, Marine, I have one of those small hammocks and it works just fine for me. And I'm sure the man with the tight pants said the same thing. If those are the only ones you ever tried or can afford, I can understand that. But if you're willing to try something different or spend a little more money, stay away from those small hammocks that are flooding the market. Now you're looking for a new hammock and you're around 5.5 feet or under, this 10-foot would work for you. You would be able to get a nice flat lie in this. You would be very comfortable. Now for those over 5.5 feet, all the way up to someone that's 6 feet 2 inches, which is 188 centimeters, then you would want one with a length of 11 feet. Now I'm 6 feet tall and this is the length I prefer. I have a Dutch wear gear half-wood hammock and that's 10.5 feet in length. But I find this hammock to be a lot more comfortable, and it is also a little bit wider, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. And for those who are taller, then a 12-foot in length would work great for you. Now the 12-foot in length is becoming popular. Companies are starting to recognize tall people. Companies like Dutch Wear Gear, War Bonnet Outdoors, Dream Hammock, and this is from Superior Hammock. Danny made this for me, it's a prototype. Now remember, if you get a 12-foot hammock, you'll also need a 12-foot tarp if you're going to take it camping. If you don't, you're going to get wet. Now if your height is in the middle and you don't know which length to get, always go with the longer one. Again, this is personal preference. Always get what works for you. Now the width can be a little more trickier. It can work with or go with the length. For example, most hammocks today are made with a width of 58 inches, which is 147 centimeters. Now, if you're taller than 6 feet, you're gonna need a little bit more material underneath you to achieve that flat lie. Not only would you want a little more width in your hammock for your height, but also if you happen to be a little more wider, with a larger bone structure, broader shoulders like I have, those people will end up what is called shoulder squeeze. And that's when the fabric is creating pressure against your shoulder. You can see that this hammock is really narrow. I got a lot of shoulder squeeze here. My shoulder just barely fits in here. And I have broad shoulders and I'm 6 feet tall, so someone that's taller, this definitely wouldn't work. The beauty of the gathered-in hammock is that the fabric conforms to your body, leaving no pressure points. It also helps relieve aches and pains. For an example, after a long day's hike, my body is just killing me. I get in my gathered-in hammock, and when I wake up the next morning, my body's rejuvenated, I'm pain-free. It's crazy how this works, but those that have used gathered-in hammocks will tell you it is so true. Now for the measurements for the width, like I said earlier, it's gonna be a little trickier. Our bodies come in different shapes and sizes, and that's part of what makes us so unique. I believe there's no average size, but I'm gonna be using terms small, medium, large to figure out the measurements for the width. Now if you have a small body structure, then 58 inches, 147 centimeters is going to work great for you. Now if you have a medium body structure, then a width of 58 inches, 147 centimeters, up to 66 inches, which is 167 centimeters, would work well for you. Now if you have a large body structure, along with the length, a width of 64 inches, which is 162 centimeters, up to 70 inches, which is 177 centimeters, is going to work great for you. Now if you have a large body structure but you're very tall, you'd want a 12-foot hammock with a width anywhere from 68 inches, which is 172 centimeters, all the way up to about 74 inches, which is 187 centimeters. And that's going to be a great hammock for you. Now I know this is a lot of info and measurements that I'm throwing at you, and it may seem a little bit complicated, and you're probably thinking, is it really worth getting a hammock? But I guarantee you, if you get one that fits you, you're going to get the best night's sleep you ever had. Plus, if you like to camp, it is more comfortable to sleep in the clouds than sleeping on the hard ground in a tent. Well, I hope this episode was somewhat helpful and insightful. And if you have any questions or comments, please write them down below. I'd love to hear from you. This is The Marine. Thank you for watching, and God bless.